Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video. Bear with me as I figure out my lighting and try to make these videos look a little less amateurish after all this time. Thank you for Destin giving me some advice on this. Let me know if it's better. Anyway, I am going to talk about how frustrated I am getting with Destiny. Obviously, this is not the first time this has happened, far from it, but like, things are getting absurd at this point. And this is kind of one of the worst spots I've ever seen the game in terms of what I would say is player trust. I wrote an article about this and people were like, we've been here. Like, this is not exactly new, but like what is happening now is absurd to the point where like the core of the game is barely functioning at this point. All of the systems that are like kind of the main aspects of the game are either bugged or they were bugged. And now it has become it's almost impossible to trust that anything stated in the game is working as intended. This obviously was inspired by the recent confirmation by Bungie that they said the Tomb of Elders tonics are not, focusing correctly and giving out the weapons they're supposed to. What exactly this means precisely is unclear. I'm not sure if it's like the tonics on the Tomb of Elders page that you can craft don't work, or if you pop any tonic, it won't work within Tomb of Elders correctly. I don't know. All I know is that from the beginning here, it's barely felt like these tonics work at all. There are many reasons for this. For something like Onslaught, the idea is that you're just not triggering enough kills to pop these. And I don't think they work on like the in-between chests. So that makes it feel worse. There's this theory recently that if you pop a tonic, it was actually focusing the next weapon over on the list. I don't think that's been proven. I don't think that's what's actually happening, probably, but I don't think that's confirmed one or the other. And it's more just like the tonics are broken. This is really the core system of this season. This is the main way we are focusing weapons in lieu of crafting. I am obviously Mr. No Crafting, but I've kind of been made to look like a fool for this season because of how bad things are. And I maintain I am, I'm not in the wrong here, and that I think crafting is a bit too much of a shortcut for a looter shooter. The problem is that Bungie is not giving us the correct alternatives like we saw in OG Onslaught with loads and loads of drops, much more appropriate focusing that actually worked, more shinies with double perks and things like that. None of that is here. So it feels even worse. So like, yeah, I don't blame people for wanting crafting back, and I think crafting will come back. But, and then obviously focusing is not working at all for some of these, for the central tonic mechanic, which is already bad. Just this idea of crafting these tonics and popping them and having, expiration timers on them and constantly managing. The system sucks at baseline, and now it's not even working. And obviously the biggest problem here was the recent Waitgate controversy, where for years, potentially, certain pairings of perks were not able to drop below, like, I think it was like 1 in 452 for some of these perk pairings that were far apart in the API. We didn't always notice this because that wasn't necessarily a god roll, but this came up with Chill Inhibitor in the dungeon that like nobody was getting the right roll for that. And it's the core of the game. The core system of the game is looting, and it was not working for literally years. That to me was kind of opened the floodgates in a way that we have not seen before. People compared this to like XP throttling and whatever from a while back. That was bad. That was done intentionally, and they just didn't tell us, which was shitty in its own way. But in terms of like how it actually affected the game, it wasn't like the biggest of deal. This was the core of the game. This was looting. This could mean you were searching for a roll for hundreds of hours. That was a 1 in 52 chance instead of a 1 in 30 chance or whatever it's supposed to be. And that's an enormous problem. So they fixed that, allegedly. I don't even know if I trust that they fully fixed it, honestly. I don't have the data to support that, but like, sure feels like I'm getting the same two perk combinations a million times and I'm not getting other perk combination. I don't know. Again, the idea here was like, it's just RNG, you're crazy. But like, we can't trust that. We can't trust anything now. And after this happened, there was this idea that, okay, well, now we can't really rely on anything. And then anything that feels weird going forward, we're going to think it's some sort of bug, even if it's not. And this is kind of how we got into the tonic situation where it's like, these tonics don't really feel like they're working, or like, is it RNG, or like, is it something that's just not triggering with enough kills? Is it bad design? Nope, guess what? It was another bug. And this is just, a month or two after the whole Waitgate thing broke down, and it's another thing yet again that is something we cannot trust. And it's exhausting because like, how much work are you going to put into these systems when you don't even know if they're working in terms of roles, in terms of perks? If the game is this bugged to this degree, yeah, I guess we need crafting on everything, because if this all worked, and if they, in addition to this actually working, if they actually gave out the amount and kind of loot they were supposed to, I would probably stick with my, crafting is not as necessary thing. But if things are this bugged, we need crafting, because then you can just, get your 5 borders, pick your perks, and you're out. And while I think that's pretty boring, it's better than the alternative of trying to farm bugged loot that is not going to drop either as often as you want for dramatically increasing RNG, or without the perks you want because of some sort of bugged perk interaction. And again, I'm not 100% convinced that it's fixed. Then there's just other bugs. Like my Warlock has not been able to make potions for 8 weeks. I have directly worked with Bungie. I have given them my exact account information. I know they're trying to fix this, and I this is not me. It's a number of other people that had this bug, and it has not been fixed. I am lucky why I have alternate characters that I can make potions on them and then use them on my Warlock. Annoying, but it works. I have a friend who only as a hunter has not been able to make tonics from moment one, and as such is barely really engaged with this season. And like, I can't blame him. We have gone through this a number of times, but I feel like this is worse than it's ever been. I thought that Waitgate was like the defining scandal of this game. And I don't even think people really process just what a big deal that was, given how problematic it was for, some of these perk combinations being 1 in hundreds of chances. And the length of that was, we don't even know how long it was happening, but it was years. It was probably since Beyond Light at worst. Like, and then after that, what system do we fully trust in that is working as intended? Now, anytime something feels weird or feels like it's broken, we can't really be like, well, it's just RNG, we're going crazy. Like, that's the nature of RNG. It is almost likely to be bugged to the point where, what is the point of hardcore engaging with these systems if farming for stuff is just broken in one form or another? It was broken with perks, now it's broken with focusing. What do you do at that point? You just bring back crafting and say, screw it. This RNG system, you're not building it well enough. You're not structuring it well enough in the first place, even if things were working and things are not working. So at this point, there's really no reason to continue on the way things are. I don't think. And, I guess I have to at least temporarily throw in the towel on crafting, because like, it's a terrible system that we're in right now. Partially because of bugs, partially because Bungie will just not change things. This is, outside of all this, dungeon farming is the worst thing ever. Like, dungeon farming is, they're giving out double loot as like an apology or whatever. Guess what? People are getting double armor pieces. They still have not figured out a way to adequately reward people in the way they want to farm, the content. Dungeons are by far the worst example, and that's why Chill Inhibitor came up to this extent. And, there should be, at baseline, a chest choice at the end where you get to pick armor and a weapon, or it should always guarantee you at least one weapon drop in addition to armor. Like, there are so many things that they could be doing to make the grind less terrible and be a little bit more generous. I'm not saying to just, here's your 5 red borders for one run of the dungeon, but like, there's essentially no compromise half the time in these activities that need a lot of help. They won't do it. And I've seen so many other games just recognize player concerns and like instantly change stuff. And Bungie either can't do that because of technical reasons sometimes, and that's its own problem, or they just like refuse to for literally no reason. Like at this point, be generous. Be as generous as you possibly fucking can. This is the time to do that in the current state of the game, especially if things are just going to be bugged all hell. You got to be more generous. You got to adapt things. Even with, Iron Banner farming, give out more loot there. Christ, I got, you get engrams and stuff, but like end of match rewards, I think I got, I don't know, 5 or 6 on wins in my entire, reset and a half of Iron Banner. Like, so many things like this have been issues for so long in terms of things that just feel decidedly ungenerous. And so then they went the whole other way with crafting, where there's pretty much no farm at all. And there's all these intermediate solutions that they just essentially don't try at all. Onslaught is the only time period in recent memory where it felt like they struck the balance correctly, mitigating RNG to a pretty significant extent, making focusing work, making the amount of loot you get work, and making fun things to chase like shinies. That's the only time. Everything else, they do not seem to have learned nearly enough from that, and they built a new Onslaught that is somehow less rewarding. How do you make an Onslaught that is less rewarding than the one you did in the first place? I don't understand. Anyway, that is me being more ranty than usual, but I am very, very frustrated with the way things are going down, and like, generally speaking, I am a defender of this game, and this is hard to defend. Again, I am not blaming individual QA people, and I've worked with people at Bungie that I know are trying to fix things. The biggest point of blame is for the layoffs that have happened. This has decimated the company. I don't know, they lost 20, 25% of their people, at least at this point. And that is very clearly affecting the game now with worse and worse bugs, more and more prevalent bugs. QA got gutted. And that is such a hugely important part of the game that is not being given the resources it needs. I'm not blaming QA. QA just needs more QA people to support a game this massive. This is a game with millions of players that is adding tons of new content all the time. It needs more than like a handful of QA people working on this, or else, this is what happens. So anyway, I'm frustrated, more frustrated than usual. Let me know what you guys think about all this. If you're in like this was years ago, it was like this, but like, I don't know. I think it's worse. I think this is a low point in at least some aspects for the game in a way we haven't seen in a while. So let me know what you think, and I will talk to you later. Take care.